Is Shi Zhiyong better than Lu Xiaojun? We're gonna find out, and we're gonna start right now. So when we're thinking about Chinese weightlifting, I think it's important to immediately understand how these guys and how these men and women actually train, and just understand their presence, even in their presence in the training hall. And I've been around them multiple different times, and one of my most memorable experiences was, we're at the 2019 World Championships, and we're about to walk in, and it's the U.S. team and the Chinese team, and Lu Xiaojun is standing right to my right, and Piros Dimas is. I'm in front of everybody in the US team, and we're about to head into the training hall, and he's yelling at me like, be ready to come in because the Chinese guys are just gonna take over all these platforms. So he starts to pull me, and meanwhile, Lu Xiaojun just comes over and like pushes me out of the way because he's just jacked, just totally jacked. And what does that come from? I weigh 240 pounds, and this dude who's freakishly strong was able to just move me. I also didn't want to start any physical altercation, but it goes back to how they train. They do really, really heavy pulls all the time. They do heavy squats 2 to 3 times a week. They have phenomenal mobility, and even when you're in the training hall, you can see all the bodybuilding work that they're doing, all the accessory work that they're doing. Their programming is extremely challenging, and that brings us to Shi Zhiyong, is that this is a guy who's gone through various stages of his career where he was severely injured in 2014, severe back issues, and then came back within a year and won the world title in 2015. So he's been through a lot of different problems, and that's gonna take us right into him breaking world records, winning titles, and never actually losing in international competition. And so I think when we start to understand, especially Shi Zhiyong as a 73K lifter, and he's currently has a world record at 169 kilos in the snatch. It's just, it's out of this world type strength. And right there, just smashing 166. And we have to be aware of how precise that movement is, how his feet move, his feet slide, just very similar. You can see right here to Lu Xiaojun. Great shoulder mobility, amazing ankle mobility. And he's actually one of those lifters who I've discussed in the past where his tibias are actually, they look longer or as long as his femurs, which is not normal. So he does have a unique pull, but the principles are still the same. The principles are still keep that bar tight, keep that flat-footed position, work through that long grounded finish, and get under the bar. And I think that going back to that introduction to their training is that there's a lot of bodybuilding, there's a lot of shoulder strength work, there's a lot of upper body strength work. And I want to check out this with this 190. And one of those things too is that we can take away is if you watch lifters like Yuri Vardanian in the past, watch his feet. His feet aren't jumping all over the place. And so he just comes out, power cleans 190, right? Power cleans it. But why? It's because his ground contact is so long and his feet barely move. It's just slight plantar flexion, get to that catch. And that's important. That's stuff that American weightlifters and American weightlifting coaches need to start to understand and take away from Yuri Vardanian, from Shi Zhiyong, from Lu Xiaojun. How do they move their feet? And Quo, another one, they don't jump all over the place. So when we're warming up, let's take some notes from the best of all time and stop jumping our feet. Anyway, let's get back to this. This is in Pattaya, Thailand. This is actually where that story comes from, where I got bumped by Lu. This is where he does have a little wider pulling stance. I think that is in relation partially to his tibias. Great depth in there. And I think at this point, his world record is 198. Was that 197 or was that the world record? That might have been the world record right there. Okay, so that was his world record right there. So it's like, no, 197. 197 was what he just did. Basically to bring that gold down. And a lot of this information I've gotten about Shi Zhiyong, I've gotten from watching some of this footage from Squat Jerk journalists, and even just from watching some of these videos that we've randomly found on YouTube. So it goes back to him being this young freak athlete, struggling through the Chinese system because it is so grueling, and dealing with those hurdles and those struggles early on. 2014, not being able to train for 5, 6, 7 months because of a back injury, but then utilizing that as fuel to lead into winning the world title in 2015 and then winning the Olympic title in 2016. And I think that that's really important, is to acknowledge those struggles he's had. And then he goes in and wins multiple world championships, 2018 and again, and you can see here just the type of bodybuilding stuff that they do, how particular they are with their movements, how he transitioned from that 69 to 73, and how he just deals with the crazy stress of being a world champ, Olympic champ, Chinese weightlifter. So here he's got, what is this? They always load the bar so crazy. Yep. And one of those big things too that the Chinese love to focus on is that chest position. So never really getting that chest too far behind the bar, and always keeping that chest up. The chest up in the snatch, the chest up in the clean, in the pull, the chest up when you're catching, and in the dip and drive and the jerk. And sort of this, just focusing on that super vertical position. So it's at 140, 180, 210, is this 210? This is 200. I'm not that fast at math. I think it's just, that's 200. Okay, 200. So he's taking over world record attempts in training. So let's keep walking through this and see, what makes him so great all the time. And so now we get to dive into how freakish is he as an athlete, the strength work that they do, the big squats, the heavy pulls, the heavy snatch pulls, and just this is a guy who's probably 5'5", 5'6", and just looks like he could actually easily dunk a basketball. And I think that's what's always ironic to me, is with people where it's like, you realize what weightlifting could do for you as far as jumping is concerned? What's so cool though is that everyone can relate to somebody who has dealt with a lot of struggle, right? So we talked about that 2014. And then now, if we could fast forward, what happens in 2020, 2021 as we're prepping for Tokyo? And so, he goes to the Asian Games, preps for the Asian Games, and goes out, and as he's warming up, he feels absolutely horrible, right? He's just, he doesn't feel good. He's complaining to his coaches. He's missing 120 in the back. He's missing 130. He's missing 140. And sometimes a lot of people that actually watch weightlifting, like they might see a Chinese lifter where they catch and they just sort of drop it, right? They catch, they drop. And Lu Xiaojun does this a lot. Even sometimes in their cleans, they'll just rack it and then drop it. But he's even come out and said what he was actually missing these lifts. He was not getting them into the slot. And he goes all the way up to, I think it was 150, misses at 150 because he's complaining. He's like, I can't breathe, something's going on. And goes out and ends up snatching a world record out on the platform, and then comes back, clean and jerks really, really well. But after this meet, okay, so I think this was Asian Games in Uzbekistan, right? So this is in Uzbekistan about 5 months ago, I have written down in my notes. So around May, I think it was. As he preps then for the Olympics, he's preparing to go to the Olympics, right? And what happens? He ends up completely ruining his hamstring, where he misses training for 15 to 20 days doesn't do any training at all. But what's crazy is that, and this is where volume-based training comes into play. This is where having consistent technique comes into play. This is where the muscle memory argument comes into play, is that someone like Shi Zhiyong he's been through struggles in the past. He's dealt with that back injury. He knows that there's light at the end of the tunnel if he does the right thing. If I take this time off, I'll be okay. I'll be able to go to Tokyo, and I'll be able to do some impressive work in Tokyo. And that's exactly what ends up happening. So in Asian Champs, after that, hurts his hamstring, takes that time off, doesn't train for almost 20 straight days. And he's, 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out from that major competition to try and defend his Olympic title. And what does he do? He goes to Tokyo and just completely owns it. Okay, so here we've got 169 on. This is actually at the Asian Championships, and he's has all those misses right in the back. Goes out, pulls, watch his feet moving, watch his knees moving, keeps that chest up, keeps that good hip flexion as the bar enters into his hips. And every single lift he's taken so far, he puts his hands on his knees. He's struggling to recover. He feels like crap. Maybe he's got an infection of some sort, but he goes out and breaks the snatch world record while missing 120, 130, 140, 150 in the back. And that just shows the type of competitor he is. Right here, again, smacking that. Watch that footwork. Great footwork. Let's see this side out chest. Good. Look at that mobility, strong upper body. That's paramount to the Chinese weightlifting system. Here's a good view of his side, knees. Just such a good finish. Footwork is amazing. World record. And I think that, okay, so soon after this is where he gets hurt in his prep for Tokyo. He's got to go out. He's got to defend his Olympic title. And if he defends his Olympic title, he'll be put on that pedestal where he's a two-time Olympic champ. Lu has only won one at this point, right? Now he does go out and wins in Tokyo as well. But we have to understand, like, he's in that same discussion. He has had, I think it's been 12 international competitions, and he has never lost, okay? Lasha can't even say that. Lasha has lost. Yuri Vardanian has lost. Piros Dimas has lost. All these guys have lost. Shi Zhiyong has never, ever lost an international competition, okay? And that's what's crazy. But what the reason being, I believe, is because of dealing with those early struggles in his career, 2014 with that back injury. He knows how to handle that adversity. He knows how to still bring it at the right time. And he also knows that all the technique work, all of the strength work, all of the bodybuilding style work, all of that work has paid off so that if he is hurt at a bad time, like this past year, heading into Tokyo, it's okay. You don't go into panic mode. You let your body recover, and you immediately provide it that stimulus that it's going to need for 2 to 3 weeks to get back to that point. And so let's try and get into Tokyo here. Okay, so we get into Tokyo. First attempt, 158. Now think about this. He hurts his hamstrings, okay, or one of his hamstrings. He likely hasn't taken over 158 in training. Comes out on his second attempt, 163. Okay, what's he doing on his third? Goes out and snatches 166. Okay, so he's 3 kilos under his world record, smashes 166. Nice movement. Everything is super crisp. He goes out, wins the snatch by 10 kilos. Okay, 10 kilos. This is not like, he won by a couple kilos. He won by 10. Then he follows that up, takes 188. And this is I want to go back over this here because this needs to be addressed. Is that if you were watching this session, you could see a little bit of frantic running around in the back with the coaches because his last attempt in the warm-up in the back was 160. Okay, so he takes 160, guys bump around, and if you see that clean, if you watch that clean, you can see he has to do that little double bounce. Okay, so let's go back, let's check that out again. Okay, so he comes out, 188, double bounce, boom, comes up, stands up, smacks this jerk. So we have to understand, he was put on the platform and he went from 160 to 188. That's almost a 30 kilo jump. That's a 30 kilo jump, 28 kilo jump for a dude that weighs 73 kilos, okay? So he's jumping a little less than half of his body weight in the clean and jerk from that last warm up to the platform. Goes out, it's not the best clean, but he's dealt with struggles in the past. He's had the hamstring issue. He's had the back issue. He had the breathing problem in Tashkent. And now all of a sudden he gets put on the platform early. He's put on the clock very early. And he goes out and smacks his opener, basically to iron everything up. Now he takes 192 on a second attempt, goes out, absolutely smacks the clean, jerks slightly forward. But because of the upper body work, if you follow Chinese weightlifting coaches and you watch and you read their interviews, they always discuss the importance of a strong upper body. Now he takes 198, and this is where he just completely solidifies himself. I believe currently he's in line to be the greatest of all time, outside of probably Naeem. Goes out, hits 198, breaks the clean and jerk world record in Tokyo, breaks the total world record in Tokyo, wins his second Olympics, starts screaming, "Is there no one else?" and just cements himself as the undefeated lifter who's now won 2 Olympic titles. So I'm interested as we prep and we get closer to Paris. We're 3 years out. Shi Zhiyong, if he can continue to defend his world titles, and if he can continue to take this momentum heading into Paris, and if he wins that gold in Paris, I believe he will go down as the greatest Chinese weightlifter of all time. I believe currently he is better than Lu. He is undefeated. He's dealt with a phenomenal amount of adversity, and his movement and his progress, he can sort of just follow Lu. You know, Lu's blazed that path, and now we can watch as Shi Zhiyong comes up that rank. So if you need help with your technique, you need help with your weightlifting, click on the link down below, head over to garagestrength.com. You can pick up one of our weightlifting technique programs. It's gonna help you improve and become a better weightlifter. If you want more content around weightlifting, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.